جمعت فيه. And after وجد بعد وجود الأشياء التي جمعت فيه, and were brought forth all of these things that were gathered in him. وجد بعد وجود الأشياء التي جمعت فيه. So they came after. وعلى هذا نبه الله تعالى الذي أحسن كل شيء خلقه وبدأ خلق الإنسان من طين. So the one who perfected everything that he created, and he began the creation of the human being with mud. وقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الذي تقدم ذكره. So the human being was created after all these things, and all of the potentialities, the powers that are in the world were placed in him. And that's what he's saying here, is that he created everything with ihsan, and then he began the human being as he's going to argue that it's an abridgment of the whole world that he created. وقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الذي تقدم ذكره. And that was mentioned in the Ka'b al-Ahbar, the saying of Ka'b al-Ahbar about what Allah created during the various days. وقد جمع الله تعالى في الإنسان قوة بسائط العالم ومركباته وروحانياته وجسمانياته ومبدعاته ومكوناته. فالإنسان من حيث إنه بواسطة العالم حصل ومن أركانه وقواه وجد هو العالم. So Allah gathered in the human being بسائط العالم. So the basa'it here means the elements. You know, you have in medicine, in Tibb al-Arabi, in the traditional Tibb that Ibn Sina was a master of, you have what are called the basa'it and the murakkabat. So you have simple cures or treatments, and then you have compound. So for instance, like aspirin is one thing, but if you take a medicine that has several different types of medicine in it, or like an antibiotic, it's one thing that's in that thing, like penicillin. So that would be a basit. But it also can mean elements, just generally the word basait. It's the foundational things, the simple substances. وروحانيته, the spiritual matters, وجسمانيته, and the material. So he means the spiritual and the material. ومبدعاته, all of his extraordinary creations. ومكوناته, and all of those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kawana, like brought them into existence and formed them and fashioned them. فالإنسان من حيث إنه بواسطة العالم حصل. So the human being, by means of the world, he came about. ومن أركانه, from the very elements of the world. وقواه وجد, and وهو العالم. So like we're made, we know now that we're made of the whole universe, what it's made of. We have all of that in us. That's his point, is that we have the stars in us, we have the planets, we have the ether. It's all in us, in the human being. And then he says, ومن حيث إنه صغر شكله وجمع في قواه كالمختصر من العالم. So Allah has really like shrunk or diminuted his form and gathered in it all of the potentialities of the world, everything that's in the world. كالمختصر, it's like an abridgment of the world. So in other words, we are the microcosm. That's what he's saying basically. فإن المختصر من الكتاب. So if you look at the abridgment of a book, هو الذي قلل لفظه, it's the one in which the words are diminished. So it's a paucity of words, واستوفي معناه, and yet the meaning is complete. Because a lot of books, as you know, have things that expound upon, but you can abridge a book to get to the fundamental things and not miss anything from the book. So if you read, for instance, an abridgment of the Muqaddimah of Ibn Khaldun, or Toynbee's abridgment, some of you read that here, the study of history, he took 9 volumes and reduced it down to 2 volumes. But And you will get in that book the basic contents of the 9 volumes. So, ومن حيث إنه جعل من صفوة العالم ولبابه وخلاصته وثمرته فهو كالزبد من المخيط. So he's saying, and from the point of view that he was made from the essence of the world, its pith, its innermost core, and the summation of it and its fruit. He is in essence like the cream or the butter that rises from the makhid. Makhid is like sour milk. So the Bedouin, and I mean this is something you'll find in a lot of traditions, but the Bedouins still do this. So you have this thing called a jaffafa, and it's basically a goat skin, and it has, you know, they've stitched it all up. They put the milk in, and then they rock it. And the milk, there's enzymes in there, so over time the milk will get sour, but then the butter rises. So he's saying that that's what, if you look at the creation like that milk, but the essence of the milk is that cream, that's the human being from creation. He's using that as an analogy for that. وَالدُّهْنِ مِنَ السِّمْسِمْ, or like the oil from sesame. فَمَا مِنْ شَيْءٍ إِلَّا وَالْإِنسَانُ يُشْبِهُهُ مِنْ وَجْهٍ. So there's nothing in the world except you'll find some similarity between that thing and between the human being. كالأركان. So if you look at the elements of the world, من حيث ما فيه من الحرارة والبرودة والرطوبة واليبوسة, from the perspective of heat and cold and moisture and dryness. So human beings have all those elements based on that 4 elemental theory. Or كالمعادن من حيث ما هو جسم. Or like the minerals, because the human being has minerals in his body, so he's a material form, like a rock. And the Prophet ﷺ said also spiritually, الناس معادن, people are spiritual minds. So there's gold people, there's silver people, there's copper people, there's lead people, there's radioactive people, toxic people, like people. There's الناس معادن. And then he says, وَكَالنَّبَاتِ مِنْ حَيْثُ يَتَغَذَّى وَيَتَرَبَّى. And also like, we're like the vegetable world, because we grow like vegetables. We eat, like you pour water on the plant and it grows. You give it, the potassium and the phosphate and it grows, or manure, or whatever you do, the compost. So the same with the human being. We grow like that. وَكَالْبَهِيمَةِ, or like the animal kingdom, so mineral, vegetable, animal, مِنْ حَيْثُ مَا يُحِسُّ, that it's sentient, وَيَتَخَيَّلُ, and then it also has levels of perception, وَيَتَوَحَّمُ, like an animal can actually be frightened and think something's there that's not there. Like an animal can see a rope and think it's a snake, and so it imagined something that wasn't there. So it's saying we share that with the animals. We know that animals also have pleasure and pain. I mean, animals, a cat, if you pet a cat, it starts purring because it enjoys the petting, the touch of it. And then he says, وَكَالسَّبْعُ مِنْ حَيْثُ مَا يَحْرَدُ وَيَحْرَبُ, or يَحْرِدُ وَيَحْرِبُ is حَرِدَ يَحْرَدُ وَحَرِبَ يَحْرَبُ. I think it can go both ways. كَالسَّبْعِ مِنْ حَيْثُ مَا يَحْرَدُ وَيَحْرَبُ. So يَحْرَدُ is like to get angry. حَرِدٌ, somebody who's angry. And يَحْرَبُ, they get belligerent. So he's saying we're like predatory animals that can get belligerent. وَكَالشَّيْطَانِ, or demons. مِنْ حَيْثُ مَا يَمْكُرُ وَيَكِيدُ وَيُغْوِي وَيُضِلُّ. Or we become like demons in that we plot and we have these Machiavellian strategies, and that we lead people astray, right? Like shayateen. وَكَالْمَلَكِ, or we can be like the angel. مِنْ حَيْثُ مَا يَعْرِفُ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى وَيَعْبُدُهُ وَيَخَافُهُ. We can be like the angel that knows God and worships God and is in awe of God. وَكَاللَّوْحِ الْمَحْفُوظ, or we could be like the preserved tablet. مِنْ حَيْثُ قَدْ جَعَلَهُ اللَّهُ مَجْمَعَ الْحِكَمِ, that Allah has put all of the wisdom of creation into that tablet. التي كتبها فيه على سبيل الاختصار. So he's like again an abridgment. فقد ذكر بعض الحكماء في بدن الإنسان 4000 حكمة. One of the sages said that in the body of the human being are 4,000 wisdoms. وفي نفسه قريب من ذلك, and in his soul is something similar to that. وكالقلم من حيث ما يثبت بكلامه صور الأشياء في قلوب الناس كما أن القلم يثبت الحكم في اللوح المحفوظ. And also we're like the qalam that Allah created and said اكتب من حيث ما يثبت, because it's the pen preserves the words by صور الأشياء في قلوب. So the human being, when we speak, you can actually create conceptualizations in the people. كما أن القلم يثبت الحكم في اللوح المحفوظ. So when you speak, it's as if your tongue is a pen, because it's having an impression on the one you're speaking to.